when she became older to help to figure out, and it touched her, the situation. But when she went back, it was the Taliban. And she tried to negotiate with them to allow her to open schools, especially for the girls, and they said basically no. But she said she won't be stopped. So she basically found some teachers. Well, and you can tell the story. These were teachers who were on the street. And what did you do?
Yeah, so we established underground five schools and different teachers' homes. And that went on until I went back in 2001.
And again, some of these, this was not an easy process. Some of them did face danger. Some of them were, she said, some of the school kids were beaten. They found ways to hide the fact that they were going to school. They wanted to learn so badly. And that she went to Cumberland Valley and some of the other schools talking to students. There were some students last night. That's a good message for our young people. You're not going to take advantage of free education here.
Tell me about it.
And nobody's beating you up, keeping you from going to school. Whereas in another part of the world, you can't even go.
Can't even go.
So those kids, I remember one mother sent us an email saying, thank you, that her daughter has a new outlook on, I should be doing all I can to be educated.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you've been to that part of the world, right?
Oh,
Joyce? Many
yeah.
times.
I was telling her, I worked for many years also in Prague before I come into Harrisburg. I supervised a service called Radio Free Afghanistan. And again, I understood the issues that some of the women and men face, trying to report the news there. But I remember trying to help train female journalists. And unfortunately, I remember one who was really gifted, but she had to go back after only 2 weeks of training because her husband did not want her. He felt threatened by her success.
Her success,
So, yeah.
But that happens here also, no?
Never.
Never. Yeah.
Please.
And you made another comment.
There's this whole, internationally, men maybe feel threatened by women because, women can do so many things at the same time.
Not all of them as secure as Reverend Nate.
I'm very secure.
That's right. He really is.
We'll talk later.
All right.
I figured that was good.
Yeah, right. But I do want to say you made another comment in regard to yet last evening. I thought was really extremely powerful too, and that educating not just the girls but the boys as well. But when you were going back and trying to work and negotiate with the Taliban about having schools available for girls, and you were not able to have that, really come about, and you went underground and did this. But you talked about the experience of going to the various meetings. You had the actual contact that gotten you in to see various different people, and you were walking down the street with a young man and you were told or taken aside that you shouldn't be walking with him. Can you tell us?
Yes.
Remember that?
Yeah, so it's a very long story, that trip.
Yeah.
And because men were suffering just as much in Afghanistan during that time, and you had to be a relative or not just a relative. You could walk with your father or maybe an uncle or a husband, but not really with just another person that you know.
Wow.
So I was told that it's better because I did have a relative in Kabul, an older man who was a relative of my mother, and I was told that it's best to go out with him because.
Now that I would find confining, though.
Yes,
I would,
absolutely.
the fact that I'd have to wait to finally get somebody who's to escort me,
Yeah.
and then
Be
if
out
you
with me.
don't happen to have, both my husband, my father, and my brother. If I weren't married, then I would just have to stay home, I guess.
Yeah. But the thing that you said about that, and you talked about the dominance they felt of men in regard to how they treated women, but you said that was kind of didn't really sensationalized because we have similar problems here in this country and we don't talk about it in the same way, but they put a lot of emphasis on what was going on in Afghanistan because this is, we're getting to the end of the month, domestic violence month here in this country. And we have, unfortunately, a lot of domestic violence that takes place in this country. But we don't put it the same
people
way.
always ask me, if you're living in Afghanistan, it's not safe for you, But in reality, I feel much safer in Kabul than I did when I was in Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. was not very safe for me to drive somewhere and park the car and walk at night to wherever I needed. One of my very close friends was chased in a very, very nice area, in fact, in Washington. So, it's easy to focus on one incident, like what happened to Malala in Pakistan, for example, and just assume that all the women who are going to school now will be shot in the head. So, or if there is this one incident of a crazy man who cut off the nose of that young lady a few years ago, and that every Afghan man will cut ears and noses, you know. Or yesterday we were driving, and in the car we heard about this domestic violence that this man who was beating up his wife. And I said, look, I mean, this happens everywhere around the world. So if we take this one incident that we heard on the radio here yesterday and inflate it and assume that every American man is beating up his wife, and we have to educate them. So, you know, I think we have to put everything into context and not really focusing on all the negatives. I know so many Afghan men who are very pro-education, they're very pro women and women's rights, and they want their wives to work and their wives to go to school, and so why don't we look at those? You never hear about those. I'll be happy to introduce one of them to you, and you can talk to them and see how they feel about their wives working and going to school and being part of, being a partner rather than a wife who has to cook and do the right things and things like that. So, yeah, I mean,
it's a complicated picture.
Yes, it is.
No
It
question.
really
No
is.
question
And,
it is,
but, you know, again, one of the things we generally do is try to get into generalities and stereotypes. There is a problem, but it's not the whole story.
not the whole
and
story.
other'd be no hope. There'd
about
be
that.
no hope.
Yeah,
If you didn't have
absolutely.
examples of men who got it and women who got it,
That's
then
right.
what's the point of going on? So
So the main thing, though, is you are trying to raise awareness as well as funds for the schools that are taking place.
yeah,
in
because I
Afghanistan.
think without awareness, we're not going to be able to raise funds.
Sure.
Because why should people pour money into a country that's not working and there's war?
Yeah, yeah.
So I think it's crucial to understand why there's a war, first of all. And in fact, there's as much more of an American war than an Afghan war right now. So why we need American troops to be in Afghanistan, and also to really extend our interests to the Afghan people and want to know more about them. Because unless we start this dialogue where what is it that they want, and the only way we can do this is to be in contact with people and say, you know, how is your day? What do you do during the daytime? You know, I was just telling Joyce today that if I explain, and I have, a day of an American women in America, a normal day, what it takes to live one day, no Afghan women want to live that life. It's difficult. It's very difficult.
We've run out of time. We're down to 1 minute. This is but so glad that you've come into the country. This is your second visit with the World Affairs Council, I know. I hope you have many more to come. And I know Pat came back and said it was a fantastic presentation that you gave as before. And I want to thank Joyce for all that you do for the World Affairs Council. And if you don't know about the World Affairs Council, you need to find, what's your phone number over there, Joyce?
Well, it's 717-221-1627, but go online at www.wacharrisburg.org.
Thank you so much for watching Life Esteem. We're going to see you next time here on Life Esteem. Goodbye.